From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video blog on the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may or may not reflect the thoughts of the EPAWA staff as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, good Sunday morning to you. Another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 7th. And we're going to go right into our long-range outlook here from Friday. Now, we do have a very cold, very brutally cold pattern that we've been in recently. We are coming out of that starting today. You are going to see some moderation in temperatures today, which is unheard of, considering how long we've dealt with this cold. But we will be getting back to above-average temperatures very shortly. All right, so we haven't seen that in a while, and I do think we're going to have a long January thaw period Right now we have this projected between the 16th and the 28th, but that's going to fluctuate a little bit given the time frame we're talking about, especially since this slightly below average temperature time frame here between the 13th and 15th, I think is going to be more like the 14th to the 17th, and then we start to moderate or go into that above average temperature January thaw period. Now, this does not signal the end of winter. I know it looks like that, okay? I know you look down here and you see the February temperatures, and we have above average +2 to +4 Fahrenheit. Does not mean that this will necessarily work out. Two things with this. One, the February outlook, once we go out beyond a month, long range gets a little hairy. And when you're looking at the entire month as a whole for February, we're leaning heavily on the winter analogs that we used and then what we used in the winter outlook. Winter outlook we had projected above average in February. Still looks like it's going to start off that way. It might not be +2 to +4. We'll see. But I do think you're going to return to winter. This is going to be not going to be the end of winter here just because you're going into a January thaw period. This January thaw period is about 2 weeks or so. And then we start to come out of it during the week between the very last couple days of January and the Super Bowl, which is, of course, February 4th. Somewhere in there we're going to transition, we think. Now, again, as far as precipitation, you're not going to have much snow over the next couple of weeks during this thaw period. That is probably off the table. Now, the wintry mix that we're expecting here on Monday, I'll get into that in the video here, but it's going to be very light, not even something we're going to be linking to on the Facebook page and Twitter and saying, with a big alert captions, here, go here, look at the snow map. It's very insignificant, very. Some parts will get some light snow. Some areas will get some icing, but very light, and overall not a big deal. This storm's sitting around the 12th or so, actually 11th, 12th. This is next Friday, Thursday, Friday. Now looks like, as we're getting closer to the event, that it's going to be too warm for any wintry precipitation. We said we were going to watch this just in case, because there were some models that were indicating that there could be a wintry side to that, especially in the far interior, but they're starting to lean against that idea. So we're going to be quite warm, we think, in that time frame, Thursday, Friday. And so it looks like that might even go into Saturday morning as far as rain is concerned. Last thing, playoff game for the Philadelphia Eagles is scheduled on Saturday afternoon. I have a lot of questions about that. What's it going to be like? Is it going to be cold? Is it going to be snowing, raining, whatever? I don't think it is doing anything. I think we're dry. We should, the system that we're talking about here, the storm signal, should move out by then, as projected right now. But it will be on the milder side, not incredibly mild, but mild nonetheless, not really cold either. So it looks like it's going to be okay for that game. So that won't be the excuse that they lose when they do. Okay, so anyway, going forward from this point, again, this is we're going to look at the brutal cold finally exiting today. Again, this is a look at actually last night and overnight, and he had some very, very cold temperatures as indicated here on the chart. These purples here are very, very far below average. This is all going to be lifting out today, actually. So today this is going to start moving out. We're going to start to see some moderation. By the time we get to Monday, you get some slightly above average starting to peak in here. Not much, but you're on this side of the scale for the first time. See the scale down here? Negatives, positives. They're on this, going to this side of the scale in our area, and that will lead to temperatures getting back up to closer to normal for this time of year. Now, this is at 850 millibars now. This is not at the surface, so it's not going to translate all the way down to the surface. So because of that, we are going to have a snow and wintry mix issue to deal with. This is basically a frontal passage. This is not a big deal. Again, not an alert-worthy type thing. We are going to send text alerts for this morning. We have a front moving through, and this is just some very light snow here up in the northern tier. Some light icing here in the central and mid-south areas, and then far south. This is all showers down here. All right, so it's not a big deal. Not a lot of precipitation that we're dealing with. We do have a map out for this, and I'll show you this real quick. This is not a big deal either. This is all coating to an inch up here of snow. Should be mostly snow in the area, this area. On the southern periphery of this gray right here, you could see some sleet mixing in. This area down here in pink is a mixture of snow, sleet, freezing rain, but ice accrual is probably going to be around 5/100ths of an inch in most places. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gets up to 1/10 of an inch, but that will be your upside. So again, this is not a real big deal. The only thing with icing though is it doesn't take much ice to cause problems. So if you have, 5/100ths of an inch of ice, it's just going to be enough to put a glaze down on the roads that could make some tricky spots. So if you're down here by, Philadelphia, Wilmington, South Jersey, and you're taking a look at South Central Pennsylvania and Northern Maryland, you're taking a look at this and saying, well, it's not a big deal. Well, it doesn't really take much to cause problems, so just be careful on Monday. This will be an issue down in those areas. Coating an inch of snow up here is not a big deal. Nothing to write home about, and generally less than 1/10 of an inch of rain down further south. This should all be rain on the southern periphery. Again, this is not a big deal, all right? Next system, January 11th and 12th, going to have a huge push of warmth out ahead of this. Okay, so you're going to be, looks like showers moving in later on Thursday. That's going to continue into Thursday night. And then once we get into Friday and Friday night, we have a system that's going to track right over the Appalachians, like in this direction, like this. Well, if you have a low that's going to be west of the area like this, that's what's known as a cutter. And when you have a cutter, all your snow is going to be on the northwest side of the system. Heavy snow, in fact. That's going to be the eastern Great Lakes, northern Ohio, western New York. All right, this continues up in this direction like this, so it's going to stay to our west, and because of that, we are going to be on the rainy side and the warmer side of the system, we think. Now, there was talk earlier in the week, hey, maybe this will start tracking out this way, like this, off the coast. Well, yeah, then if that happens, this can be pulled down like this. And you have your snow is now in central Pennsylvania, northeast PA, maybe getting to a little bit further southeast than that, depending on this track. But the low is the trends of the guidance have not been to show that. Matter of fact, they've been trending this way, trending more for the low to be further northwest, and then by doing that, you bring in warm air on this side of the system out ahead of it, warm air advection out on this side, and the cold air is wrapping around on this side. That's why you get snow up here. So that's how that works. So that does not look like a wintry system right now. We're going to continue to monitor just in case, because stranger things have happened. Sometimes you have things trend certain ways, but I wouldn't bank on that right now. It does look like we're getting out of this brutal cold pattern, and some people have asked, well, what about this rain on the surfaces here? Because it's so cold, the ground's so cold. Can that cause an issue with freezing rain, even though it's the temperature in the air temperatures above 32. Yeah, I would say that for this event, this one here that we're talking about on Monday. So areas further south here, even though you're below the areas that are below or just above, below 32 are right here. Areas just south of there may be a degree or two above freezing, where the ground is still frozen. You can still get it to freeze to 33, 34, 35 degrees because the ground is so deeply frozen. That'll work for this first event. It's not going to work for this one. This is now several days removed from the below normal temperatures, and we're going to be above average and allowed to thaw a little bit, so that's not going to be the case later in the week. Okay. Now, warmer risks are going to be prevalent from mid-month onward. Again, this is going to be around the 16th, 17th onward. All right, and how do we know that? Well, because the Nevada-Julian Oscillation has gone from the colder phases over here through phase 3, where it is right now. We're about right here right now. Then it's going to continue onward to the maritime continent. These are warmer phases, phase 4, phase 5, phase 6. That's where it's headed. It's heading to these warmer phases. You can see that here. If you're looking at phase 2, we're cold. Phase 3, we're cold. So that's where we are right now. We're cold. But then it comes out of it, and you head to a phase 4, it's warm. Phase 5 is warm. Phase 6 is warm. Phase 7 is still mild, or on the milder side of warm. So it's going to take a while to get all the way over here, and I think that's why you're going to have that extended period of the January thaw. So this is not something that we're just saying that's going to occur, and then, hey, maybe it won't last as long as they say. Yeah, I heard some outlets saying that, some meteorologists even saying that. I don't agree with them. I think the January thaw is real. I think it lasts for the majority of the remainder of this month. Now, we do see a transition period from about the 28th, 29th or so up until about the Super Bowl, which is February 4th. Somewhere in there, we're going to transition, and then we're going to start getting some of these colder shots coming back in here again, we think. Okay, so this is not just going to be, you know, in and out transient warmth and that's it. You do have these sometimes when you have a brutal cold pattern where you go into a relaxation of the pattern for a while before you reload later. And I do think you're going to have some more shots in February. So don't get this wrong idea. I know I have this. It looks like that here in the February outlook. Again, this was analog based. We're looking at February with above average +2 to +4. It might not end up that high. Okay, I do think it starts off above average in the beginning of the month, but after that you're going to have cooler risks, and something can be perfectly timed with snow to get this from below average to near or even above. You can get some really big storms here in February. It only takes one. Okay, so don't write off winter just yet. We are certainly not doing that. I know it looks like that. Maybe I should have done a better job of conveying that message when we put out the long-range outlook here on Friday. But to summarize, the brutal cold begins to lift out today and continues to moderate this upcoming week. The wintry mix on Monday will be minor, very minor. Just going to watch with any concerned areas. We're going to watch the areas that are expecting any icing. Because freezing rain, of course, even though it's very light, only about 0.05 of an inch of freezing rain possible down in those areas, but it doesn't take much for ice to cause problems, so we will keep an eye on that. We're also keeping an eye on the late week rain and making sure it stays rain and nothing else. Trends have been in that direction, so it does look like it's going to be mild and raining toward the end of the week. The January thaw period arrives after mid-month and largely dominates the rest of January, but winter is expected to make a return between the last week of the month and the Super Bowl. Somewhere there, I think we start transitioning again and get rid of the above average temperatures. Maybe we're really just only slightly above or near to slightly above, and then we start kind of getting some shots here in February when maybe perfectly timed with some precipitation that could give us some snow events yet. So I don't think you're going to deal with a lot of snow the rest of this month after Monday. Okay, I'm just being honest with you. After that, we'll see where we are as we get a little bit closer, and hopefully with each one of these videos we'll be able to narrow down timing a little bit with that next cold push that's coming. I do think it's coming, but like I said, once you get past a month it gets a little hairy, so we're just using mostly analogs and monthly climate models and things like that, because it's really almost impossible to predict beyond a month with accuracy unless you're using analogs and using the correct ones. So far this winter we have. I know many of you haven't seen the winter outlook that we publish privately in the forum. The forum members will tell you, those that are subscribed to it, the winter outlook has been 100% spot on to this point. 100% spot on, and that's rare. Okay, usually you have, it's kind of close. No, this has been spot on. We haven't released that publicly, of course. You haven't seen that. But so if the analogs continue to support the rest of the winter, we know where we're going from that point. So we do have an expectation that February will have at some point more chances for snow. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Marchers. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 7th. We'll be joining us again next week. We'll take a better look at what's going on beyond just the month of January and maybe get a better handle on when we can expect cold shots coming in February and perhaps some snow. Take care.